Hey guys, so today I thought I'd bring you guys my wish list for the upcoming September 2020 ban list, and I try to keep it as realistic as possible. Now, I didn't want to do a formal prediction because you never know, we may just get no hits again like the last one, and we end up just getting stuck in this same format for even longer. Now, I do really hope that we get some kind of hits this time because the format has been pretty bad since the lockdown, and the worst thing is the format has somehow managed to get worse and worse over time during the last few months. Right? I mean, we saw Eldritch first start in this zombie world deck or stun variants at the start to evolve into this synchro variant, and now the Numeron version, which are ridiculously strong. And we saw Adamantipator rapidly evolve into the best combo deck by far, and with Dragoon coming out at the end of the month, the format's only going to get worse if nothing gets hit. So let's start with my wish list. So we're going to start our wish list with the ban section with Block Dragon. No surprise here. It really should have been hit on the last list, but it makes sense that Konami didn't, since there wasn't any real life play and they needed to consider product sales for Adamantipator. Now, this card makes Adamantipator absolutely bonkers. Its effective special summon isn't once per turn, so it's an easy free body, but most importantly, it gets them 3 rock monsters to hand, with 2 of them being Adamantipator monsters to extend their plays. So they could open not that well, but if they can resolve block, they're just gonna go full combo. And to make it even worse, on their opponent's turn, they'll IP it away and plus even more. And this is what makes Adamantipator so strong, right? Generally, with combo decks, if you're able to break their first turn board, then they don't have as much of a follow-up play. But with Adamantipator, even if you break their board, if you don't kill them that turn, they have so many resources left that they're still going to be able to go into their B lineup of extra deck monsters and kill you. And without Block Dragon, Adamantipator would still be a fair combo deck, so hopefully this gets addressed this time. Next, another card that was widely expected to be hit on the last list is Jet Synchron. Now, don't get me wrong, Halki-Fibrax should be the one to get banned, but we know it won't because it's just still so new. And Jet on its own is going to get you Herald and Borreload Savage, and it's just frustrating to see so many decks abuse this. Now, if you hit Jet, then we know there's other replacements, like Plague Spreader Zombie is a common one that's mentioned, but at least with Plague Spreader, you have to put a card from your hand back to the deck. So it's a true neg, unlike Jet where you discard, and for Eldritch variants, that's not even a neg in most cases because they'll just discard their trap and get a different one to the field. Then we have Utopic Zexal, which is really a consideration for the ban list now because of the recent Numeron cards released in Battles of Legends. It's a really unfair card and so easy to bring out now. It just doesn't let your opponent play at all, and we would still have to endure it for a month until the September list, so hopefully Konami addresses this. And similar to Zexal, a card that I still can't believe hasn't been banned at this point is True King of All Calamities, also known as VFD. Now, even when this deck was only a thing, or rather, even when this card was only a thing for True King Dinos, I thought it should have been banned because it's just so powerful and similar to Azathoth. A card that doesn't let your opponent play at all, but they don't seem to last. And now with Halki-Fibrax, it's a lot easier to go into, and it's a really unhealthy card. You have to open something like Imperm to have a chance at it, otherwise if they resolve it, then you most likely lose that game. And I would be extremely happy if this card finally gets laid to rest. Now the last on my list is Moulin Glacier in Mermails. Now, being able to rip 2 cards from hand is pretty busted, and it's pretty easy to summon out, and Halki-Fibrax being a water helps out too, which is kind of a revolving theme around here, I guess. Now, if you also consider the fact that Minstrel is going to banish another card from your hand for the turn, not to mention they can also summon out VFD, it makes it really hard to play, but I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get touched on this next list. Now, let's move on to the limited section. So first up is Crystron Halki-Fibrax. Now, as I mentioned earlier, technically this card should be banned, but since it's still new, and I understand that Konami has to consider their product sales with the list, I hope that it will at least go to limited because that will still make a difference. What I find so annoying is that you could stop the first Halki-Fibrax with Imperm or Ash, or maybe you even Nibiru during their combo, but if you don't kill your opponent the next turn, then they'll just try again with the second Halki-Fibrax, and that's where it's gotta stop. Letting them do this combo path once is bad enough, but to let them do it again after stopping their first attempt, I really hope Konami limits this card this time. And it doesn't outright kill their product sales either, since it's still a legal card at 1 and people would need to get it. Next, I have Elixir of Scarlet Sanguine. Now this is probably too optimistic because Eldritch is very new as well, but if Konami were to ever hit Eldritch, whether this upcoming list or a future one, I think it's safe to say that this would be the most realistic hit to affect their consistency and not kill the deck. It's a really good card to keep bringing out the Golden Lord, and you only have so many ashes in your hand to try to stop that on top of trying to stop Halki 5X, for example. And I don't actually think this will happen on this list, but we can only hope. Then I have Magical Meltdown on the list to hit the consistency of the Invocation engine. I think people were pretty shocked that the engine wasn't hit at all in the last two ban lists. Now with Dogmatica coming out that uses the Invoked engine, maybe Konami doesn't hit it again for at least another list, but we've seen Invoked engine get splashed a lot over time, and I think it's time it needs to get hit. Invocation recently got reprinted again, although short printed, so they've certainly got their money's worth out of it, and so hopefully something happens this time. Last on my limited list on this wish list is Mystic Mine. Now I have no idea why Konami loves this card so much. It's just such a poorly designed card and promotes poor gameplay. I would want this to get banned outright, but limiting would be a really great start. I mean, some would argue that it's a necessary evil against crazy combo decks like Adamantipator because they generally don't have a main deck out to it and have no choice but to concede. But is this really how the direction of the game that we want to go towards? And putting it to 1 could mean, we don't have to worry about it after we finally get rid of it, and it might also allow a card like Metaverse to come back to more than just 1. So that's it for my limited list, although you could argue that if Adamantipator and Eldritch decks are hit, you could probably hit something on Dinos too, maybe Overraptor or Fossil Dig, but I'll leave that for now. Now with the semi-limit section, I think I'm being overly optimistic here. The first is Red Reboot to at least 2. The OCG I believe has it at 2, and that initial limit in that TCG list really caught me off guard, but it made sense because Lightning Storm was about to come out. But Red Reboot is the card that we need the most against back row decks, especially Eldritch, where if you destroy their traps, then they're just going to get new ones at the end of the turn. And back row decks like Eldritch and Ultrageist, they play a lot of hand traps now as well, so Red Rebooting them isn't even a surefire thing to kill them, because you may just get imbued while going off. And not to mention, Solemn is at 3, so I hope that Red Reboot can come back to more than just 1, and I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. The next one would be A Hero Lives. Now it's a powerful card, not gonna lie, but Hero is really not seeing any or much play at all right now, and they had the hit to Mali a couple lists ago, so they could use that additional boost. And the other one is another fan favorite, ABC Dragon Buster. Now I know a lot of people were really pissed with it being preemptively hit to 1 because of the Master Rule 5 coming up at the time, and I think it may have been too early to do that. I mean, yes, there's Union Cure, Union Driver, and there's the new Quick Play spell and Machina structure deck that boosts ABCs, but at least let them have their boy back to 2 and see how it fares. Finally, on to the unlimited list. The first one I really want to talk about is Pantheism of the Monarchs. I really hate that this card is still limited. I played Monarchs myself about a year and a half ago, and let me tell you, the deck needs all the draw power it can get, and it still won't last in the current meta. The deck is super fragile, and it loses to pretty much any hand trap. The best play is summoning out Vanity's Fiend, and in today's game, Imperm is more accessible, we have Dark Ruler no more, there's also Lightning Storm to destroy attack position monsters, so there's a lot of ways out at post side, and the deck just isn't very strong. And I get that Pantheism's draw effect isn't once per turn, but we're just gonna brick anyways, so just give us Pantheism back to 3 Konami. Next on my unlimited is Tour Guide. It's a hell of a normal summon, but quite fragile, and I think a lot of people thought it would have actually come back to 3 on the last list. So let's just give BA some more love and let them have it to 3, and I don't think many people will really complain about that. And the last one is Widow Anchor to 3. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a super annoying card, but it's better than bringing Engage back to 1, in my opinion. And I think Sky Strikers, it's a fun rogue deck right now, if not a borderline tier 2 deck, and we've seen some competitive success with it recently. And it could stay the way it is, but it wouldn't really surprise me, or I'm sure many of you, if it came to 3 from 2. Alright guys, so that's my hopeful ban list for the upcoming month of September. Now we may very well just get an unban list like the last one, but let's have some faith that Konami will do something this time, because the format has been getting worse and worse over time. So let me know what you change on my list, and I am looking forward to your comments. So if you liked the video, consider subscribing, and it'll motivate me to make more videos, and take care guys.